Hello and welcome back. Today we're gonna be working on the shield and the blade. We're gonna get those sorted out, assembled, finally, because like not having an arm was bothering me a lot. And yeah, and then next time we're gonna be doing the free hands to fix the thing. As you see, the palette is still the same from last video. That's because I'm shooting these one after the other. So let's go. I'm going to be base coating the blade with a gray, a dark gray. Also the inner part. Okay. We can quickly move up in value by adding some light flash to this gray. And think about the highlights for a second. Well, I don't know. We might want one here. The paint is still wet, the previous coat I mean, which allows me to sketch in a pretty nice highlight through the power of wet blending. There we go. And we're going to be doing the same thing on the other side, avoiding to paint the highlight in the same area, in the opposite area of where we already have it, which means that we are going to be going for a checkerboard kind of pattern. I'm going to be doing one side first and then the other so you can see the process happening twice. So after the first wet blend, I'm going to be reinforcing the highlights and blending them once again, a bit more precisely this time, using layers or glazes of a mix of the two color. So whichever layer I'm working with, whichever highlight I'm working with, plus the previous one will get me the blending color to work with. If I feel like the blending color is still too bright for the previous layer, which is we have a base coat and an highlight. If the blending color is too bright for the base coat, it's very simply fixed by going back to the base coat a bit more. Okay. We can add more of this light flash to our mix and sketch in our next highlight. And as you can see, I like to bounce the highlights around. I don't like to have like just blocks of light. I would rather have like different different lights happening at the same time. I think it's more interesting this way. It's a very Spanish way of painting a metallic, and I like it a lot. So you can have a stronger block of light and then two weaker one next to it. You don't have to do this all the time, otherwise it can get repetitive. You can only have one bounce of light next to your main light. You can sometimes have no bounces of light next to it, and that happens with the strongest highlight. That one does not bounce around, but I mean it does, but it loses intensity and it creates these smaller highlights next to it. Which is why we progress when we paint non-metallic, we progress in light by values slowly, because what we're trying to portray is the light bounces before we actually paint the strong light. Some painters, for example, will base coat the object in a mid-tone, like a gray, and then will be sketching in the strongest light immediately with a pure white, like a heavy body white or an ink or a chimera white or whatever. They will be sketching in the strongest light, which is where the light is coming from, like the real glint of light from the sun or the light source hitting the object, and then they will build around it different lights or light bounces. I don't do that because I don't think it's necessary for my way of painting, but I will be trying to show you that method on the other side of the blade, okay? So at least you can see it. Don't tell me I don't do nothing for you. Okay. And now with our light flash, we can block in the true glint of light, which is gonna be here on the top. I would like to extend this light a bit, like so, and of course blend it. Like this. Now on the bottom of the blade, might be cool to have some sort of reflection of the orange base, because you know, considering this is a very this is steel, right? So blades can be a bit more reflective than golds can. So I'm just gonna sketch in our orange with a bit of a layery glaze, and then with black I'm going to create the metallic sheen look. Like this. Very simple, very quick. We can also, considering that these non-metallic orange I'm painting now, it's pretty much an OSL. We do have to have it blend with the rest of the non-metallic through a shadow. So we gotta bounce the light in a way that it gets as a shadow. I think this works. We might need, I mean, we do absolutely need some more work, but as an idea, I think it works nicely. If you find yourself having ideas during the painting, follow those ideas. They usually are the things that will make you learn the most. When you're like, oh, maybe I should do this. Yeah, do this. Maybe yes. Maybe you should do it. Don't be afraid of trying things out. It really is the fear is the mind killer. Don't let it get to you when you paint your puppets. After all, you are just painting puppets, so it is. There is no life or death situation that will make your mistake end up ruining your life. Okay, you can easily fix anything you do, but if you follow your guts, you will learn something. To the very least, you will learn yourself. You know, you'll be able to understand yourself and how you think, and that's super important in the world we live in. It's a skill that we need to have in life, not just in mini painting. Knowing yourself, I mean. Okay. So we finally got the gray to blend with the black a little bit more. We can block in our highlights now. A bit better. Again, working with an orange can be tragic because of how terrible it is at covering, but okay. I strengthen the highlights to make it look more grayish, more bright because it's an highlight in a non-metallic, but also a little bit less saturated. But I am going to blend it with our orange over it, like we did so many times during this paint job. You know, I wonder why I always end up having orange on my palette. It is one of my least favorite colors, and I'm always dealing with it for some reason. Okay. That's pretty good. I like it. Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. We can strengthen our highlights here with our heavy body pure white. Just get the tip of the blade to be super shiny. And we can use our light flash, which is now not this brightest highlight we have on the model, on the metallic, because it's now the white. We can use this color to push the highlighting a little bit on our secondary light there, right? Again, moving back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. I place an highlight, I push it, I desaturate it, I increase it in value, I decrease it in value, I blend it, like it back and forth, back and forth. But it's now looking nice, I think. It's a very nice metallic. We can glaze our light flash, directing it towards the middle here on this highlight here. Doing so will strengthen the coverage of the actual light flash highlight, and at the same time blend it in a bit more with the highlights around it, making them pushed back like we did with the textures, and have them become part of the model and not just look like painted lines. Okay, I'm liking this. I'm gonna be adding a touch of light flash to our orange, bright orange color to highlight the bottom of the blade. Okay. We can do some better work here though. Okay, we're good shape. Now, I want to show you the stronger highlight version of this. I'm gonna get my heavy body white, and I'm just going to block it in here. I'm going to have to extend it a bit. I don't want it to be chalky. That's gonna be our strongest highlight. We have decided that. That's where the light of the sun or whatever it is, it's hitting the blade, and that's our strongest highlight. So now all we have to do is just work around it and push the highlights around it. So we can go back instead of forth. We can get our gray, and we can plug it in here. You can see that we still have a long way to go to get to pure white, because we have the pure white on the model already, showing us how bright it is. So we can strengthen this, and we can push the highlights a lot. This method is really good if you find that you don't have a very good understanding of value. Like if you ever done a non-metallic, for example, or painted something and some other painter told you, you know, it could use more contrast though, meaning in light, which means you don't really understand exactly how bright you should go in your stuff. Well, for non-metallic, this is easy. Just slap a pure white, whatever you think the highlights should be, and then build around it. This pure white is going to be your beacon to let you know how bright you can go. Because now I know that all of my highlights can go very, very bright as long as they don't go just exactly as bright as that. But I will also be able to know that if they are too dark, because I have a white there showing me the way. So right now, all I'm doing is just working on blending. And of course, another thing that we know is that our shadows are way too dark for our current highlights. So we gotta put something in the way to blend. So I'm getting myself a bit of a brighter shadow and blocking it in to blend. Okay, we can now blend or block in our light flash on top of our white, which is still going to shine through and still act as a bright highlight. But we do see, like, look at the difference, it's massive. But we need to start blending also these highlights, otherwise it's gonna look rough. Okay. Okay, and now we can go back to our pure white and plug it in again. Because we know what it was, right? It was here. And that's gonna be our strongest ally. You can't see it maybe, but it's there, trust me, and it's the strongest. Okay. Now let's work on the energetic effect. We have the turquoise that we painted up. Uh, we used to paint up the couple of the details on the armor with, and we can use it to paint in our I don't know, energy PVDs. We can add some light flash to it to make it brighter. Okay. And now with the same color, we can start freehanding a bit of lightning. So lightning is fun. I find that the best way to do it is by thinning the paint a little bit, working with the tip of the brush. Try to not have too much paint on the brush either. You don't want to create big lines, you want to create thin lines. And also move like in a zigzag pattern. Okay, that's our sort of base coat. We're gonna be working on that a bit more later, but for now let me just do it on this side too. Okay, and now that we have our bright, well, in the case of, actually, in the case of uh, this side of the weapon, I went a bit too bright already. So I would actually make it darker in a few spots, more than brighter. And now with the bright version of this color, we can kind of dot it in the points where more than two spark meet. Well, where two or more spark meet. The junction between them, right? And then with our light flash, almost entirely light flash with a bit of this light blue. We can create little dots inside of it. Okay. We're not going to be doing the orange OSL on this part. And if you're wondering why, it's because the weapon is angled in such a way that uh, the bottom of this backside is not really facing the ground. So there would be no point in having a light there. All we have to do now is just work on our edges. There we go. Okay. I'm not a big fan of lightning on weapons, by the way. Like in, I don't know, I never really liked this effect too much, but I wanted to show you. I might remove it from the final version of the model. But for now, it's here. Anyway, moving on, we're going to be working on the shield. Alright, we're getting closer to completing our paint job. We now have to work on the shield. I'm gonna get the inner part of it painted first, and then we can move on to the next. Just quickly gonna be base coating the handle, the same colors I used for the handle of the blade, as well as quickly. And again, I say quickly, not without reason. Like, it's the back of a shield. Nobody's gonna see this, so we don't have to go insane painting this. I'm not entering this model into Monte San Savino, so, and even if I did, I wouldn't have to worry too much about the shield anyway. But for the sake of completion, I'm going to base coat the little things here. And as well as highlight them. Again, very quick, very quick work. Nothing too crazy about this. Sorry, had to answer the door. Anyway, yeah, this is good. As for the uh, inner part of the weapon, of the shield, I'm gonna keep it black because I've noticed that uh, salamanders use black a lot, right? So why not keep using it? To also create an interesting diversity in the model, not have like a stain of black happening. So I'm gonna mix myself a dark blue from our turquoise from Vallejo model color and our black from Vallejo model color. I'm going to very quickly sketch some highlights, which I'm going to immediately wet blend with our black. And that's done. Again, we might have to do a little bit of work once the shield is assembled and we can work a bit better on things we can actually see of it, but for now, I'm good with this. I'm gonna get Scrofulous Brown. I mean, I'm doing a gold, okay? But I'm gonna be doing it with different color, mostly because it's gonna look the same. But Scrofulous Brown, just to show you different recipes. Scrofulous Brown, let me see if you can see, okay. Scrofulous Brown, we can add some black to it to darken it. Get a greenish ochre. And we can base coat our gold. Using the side of the brush to avoid having the paint go into the recesses if possible. Okay, with a bit more Scrofulous Brown added to the mix, we can get our highlighting going. And with a bit of our heavy body white added to the mix, we can do our strong highlight. Okay. We can use pure scrofulous brown to blend after glazing it. Okay. Okay, I think we are honestly good with the inner part of the shield. So I'm just gonna put it on the model so I can work on the front. Okay. Now the front will take a bit more work, rightfully. So we're going to be getting our blue, our dark blue black back, and we're going to start sketching it in on our black area to highlight. Of course, this is a bit too blue, so we can always wet blend it back into a more gray blue by using our black. Wet blending is a great tool for modifying a color on the fly. There we go. And now we can add some white, as well as a touch of cold yellow, mostly white, to this mix to get ourselves a strong light that we can use to edge a light. And we can also sketch in a bit of a stronger highlight using this same color. Okay. We can make a mix, as always. Get a bit of a darker color and use this darker color to blend and to create secondary highlights. Like so. Just gotta keep going back and forth to reinforce the highlight when lost in the blending, or blend a bit more. Slowly but surely, we're gonna get ourselves something we like. Okay, this is good enough. Now, the bottom of the shield will be reflecting a lot of light. I'm going to sketch in with a dark brown with some orange added to it for coverage. Which is never gonna happen, by the way, but one can hope. Let it dry. It's gonna take a moment. In the meantime, we can keep working on adding some cool lights to our black non-metallic. This is a very artistic black non-metallic, in a sense that it has a lot of colors in it for being a black. But it's a nice artist rendition of the color black. I like it. I wouldn't use it on all my paint jobs, but on Some Space Marines, why not? It also helps make the skeleton holier by having this background light. Because when we do the gold on it, it's gonna be pushing it a lot. Let's reinforce the orange. In the meantime, we can base coat our little skeleton friend. Uh, let's see what color I want to use. I want to go for a grayish skeleton. So I'm just going to mix a gray. We can add a touch of the scrofulous brown to it to give it a bit of a creamier, grayish look that skeletons have. And yeah, let's just get wood to work. For now, I'm just gonna only work about base coating it. I'm not gonna think about the light sources or nothing like that. Just base coats. This is a bit too bright though. Let me go darker than this. We don't have to go this bright. Okay. We can add a bit of our flash, light flash to this mix to get an highlight. And we can block it in. push it one more time with our light flash. We can add some white to our light flashy color. And do some very small highlights. Okay, that's good. Um, let's keep working on our highlight here. In the meantime, we can start glazing it onto the bones as well. The bottom of them at least. I don't really feel like I want to take it all the way up there. Yeah. Again, we can add white to our orangish brown and use it to sketch in our highlight. We can go back to our orange blend. Keep wet blending. Just keep wet blending. Okay. Now we can do the gold again. So we have our scrofulous brown, our black. We can get ourselves a very dark mix. Block it in. I'll see you when I'm done base coating the golds, okay? Okay, with the base coat finally complete with our gold, we can start highlighting it. Let me get my mic in a better position though. Okay. Let's go. Gonna be adding scrofulous brown to our previous mix. I can go a bit more yellowish with this and then eventually take it down if I want to. So let's block these highlights in. I of course have to follow the highlighting I have done on the black parts of the shield to keep up with the highlighting. Again, I repeat this every time I do this and I'm never going to stop repeating it. It is paramount that your non-metallics, even of different colors, when they are close to each other, match in their highlights. So if you have an highlight on a non-metallic that's touching another non-metallic, those highlights have to be exactly the same. Otherwise, it's gonna look awful. Well, not awful, but it's gonna look weird. And it's the worst because people who don't know how to paint non-metallic will not even be able to give you feedback on it. Like usually when you paint something, like a skin tone or something, you can ask your grandma for feedback and she'll be like, I don't know, maybe it's a bit too red. Doesn't look very real. That's how your grandma speaks. But when you do non-metallic, it's harder because they have no freaking clue what you did. So they're like, oh, that's amazing. I don't know though, there's something wrong with it. And you'll be like, what is it? And you will never know. I'm telling you now. What's wrong with it? It's usually that the highlights don't match. Therefore, the lighting doesn't seem natural. I'm of course going to be pushing these highlights though on the gold a bit more because gold reflects light more than black. So we can have a bit more of a gradient happening. Down at the bottom, I'm not going to highlight because I'm going to transition the highlights from yellowish to orangish because of the OSL. So we have achieved a blending as well as a base coat. I already blended. You guys know how I did it, right? I'm gonna give you 5 seconds to answer. Yes, I did make a mix 50-50 of the highlight and the previous tone and blend them together through layering and glazing. Blending is actually a no-brainer and very easy once you know what the hell you're doing. So yes, let me get some more light flesh to slap on my palette and we can do the highlighting now for the glory of this paint job. So we're gonna be adding our scrofulous brown with white, creating a very bright canary yellow, and we're going to paint it in inside of the area of highlights, matching the previous highlights placement. Okay. We can now blend, going back to Scrufulous Brown. And blend the two colors in. Okay. It's already looking fairly metallic. And now we can do one last highlight, adding more of our white to it, almost pure light flash. And we're going to be doing some very small highlights to match with the highlights on the armor. While we're here, we can also use this color to edge a light. Edge lights are super important in a metallic. We also have to edge light inner the inner edge of this shield. Okay. And we can go back to our previous highlight and reinforce the lights here on the various trinkets and bubbles present on the model. There we go. I think it's looking pretty metallic. I like it. We can use a bit of a darker version of this color to highlight the bottom. Okay. So that's done. Let's do the hourglass. So to do the hourglass, I'm just gonna be mixing myself a dark yellow for the sand. I can just easily use scrofulous brown and black together again, mixing a dark color. We can also get ourselves a bit of a dark blue to paint the glassy blackness. And then with our heavy body white or the light flash, doesn't really matter right now. We have to paint the glossy effect of glass. Which is going to be something like this. There we go. Got ourselves an hourglass. With that painted in, all we have to do now is work on the OSL of the bottom. So I'm gonna be adding some of the orange to our base coat and then go insane because it never covers. So since I'm sick of it, I'm gonna show you guys a cool way to paint stuff that doesn't cover. I already mentioned it previously, but this is a good example. If I make a gray, keeping the base coat as it is, I can just make a gray and paint the gray in, right? Now, I can also highlight such gray. And then I can highlight it. I can highlight it again. Now we have a silver non-metallic. Now, if we let it dry, I can glaze above it to change the color, and that's gonna. This is basically a grisaille, and it's how you. It's when you paint using a scale of grays and then introduce the color later. It's very used for golds or yellow objects or orange objects, free hands as well. Like it's used all the time, but by painters, both canvas and mini painters, for stuff that is super obnoxious to paint, such as this damn orange. So now that my white has dried, I can glaze the orange on. And you can see I am getting an orange highlight. Doesn't look gray anymore, it's orange. The whites and grays beneath it give me a gradient, which is good. And I'm getting an OSL at the same time without actually having to sit here and do 24 layers of orange until it covers. See, that's amazing. All right, let's paint the parchment. I might actually want this parchment to be fairly bright. We can go back to our Japanese uniform, add some black to it, or some brown, the whole red, whichever you want. Some white to it. This is a bit too... so I'm gonna be adding more whole brown. I want a brownish color with a hint of yellow in it. A creamy color, like a sandry dust with a bit of brown if you have GW paints. Okay. We can now attach more light flash to this mix and to get ourselves another highlight. The reason why I want this paper to be bright is because I know that there's certain amount of freehanding needed on it. So in order to have the effort of the freehand be noticeable from a viewer easily, if I keep the background fairly bright, the black of the freehand on top will be noticeable. If I keep the paper to a more tarnished kind of look, I'm gonna lose some of that freehand effect. And if I have to spend an hour freehanding something, it damn well have to be seen easily. Okay, we can get a mix of the two to do a quick blend. And lastly, we have to work on the sigils. Where is my magenta? Ah, it's there. Got some black. Okay. We have to do the hand that is sitting there nice and pretty. Flat green. I'm gonna be wet blending here to get it done a lot quicker. Flat green base coat into uh, into moot green highlight. And you might be wondering, wait a second, if you're using only these colors to do the armor on the hand, does that mean you wasted a shit ton of time doing the armor earlier in the previous videos by doing careful glazing and white and blending it? Yes, I did, technically. For the sake of getting the model done, I did waste time. But that time I wasted is what allowed me to understand what colors I wanted to use. I am a very... I paint by instinct. And the colors I choose because of instinct. So I have to see things happen on a model before I can make a decision. You might argue that was time wasted, and you might be right. But I have never painted green non-metallic before on a salamander. I have never done it. This is the first time I do it. I think this is the first time I paint green non-metallic, period. So I wasn't exactly sure how to approach it, and I had to find out. And that was exciting for me for the Patreon content, because I think it's interesting to see how I find things out. It's too easy to watch somebody achieve a very interesting paint job after 35 years of painting, where they have learned every single recipe on the planet by heart. And they just work like automatons with their recipes and make them work. I think it's interesting to watch somebody figure things out. Because it's more likely that you are in the position of figuring things out more than you are in the position of having an encyclopedia of recipes in your mind for every single moment you find yourself in, right? I want to teach you how to think on your toes rather than this is the recipe, this is how I paint it, goodbye, give me $15. You know? I mean, I could probably do that, and that would mean a lot less work for me. And would also probably make me look more professional to an extent, as in, people would probably believe I am better at painting, and the vast majority of people would. Well, what they wouldn't understand is that you're actually good at painting when you can do this, not when you know a recipe by heart. It's very easy to know things because somebody told them to you. It's a lot harder to figure things out because you are an explorer, right? But rant aside, we are pretty good with our, well, armor. I can actually use this color here too. Okay. Okay. We can make it a bit brighter. There we go. Okay. We Gucci boys. So everything is done. We only missed the freehands, which is the writing and stuff, and the cleanup. And by cleanup, I mean fixing the black lining, fixing the edge lights, all the fun stuff that really makes you enjoy mini painting. And then we're over. We're done. So I will see you guys in the next video when we approach the freehands, get those done. And yeah, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this guide. Love you. Bye bye.